What's up, everybody, and welcome to another installment of the FBC Sports Balls podcast. Today I'm joined by our guest Adam Felon. We have Matt Moscow, Kyle Santa Barber, and Colton Waters. Today we're going to be talking about our the MLB Hall of Fame ballots and our Heisman predictions. And we don't condone betting, but we're going to be talking about our NFL best bets. FBC Sports does not condone betting.
We don't condone it. Don't bet. Be responsible.
Right, our MLB Hall of Fame ballot.
What if you do bet?
No.
These picks would be good.
Yes.
These would be pretty good picks.
For our adult listeners. So Hall of Fame ballot this year is Bonds and a bunch of other players last year on the ballot, right?
Yes.
So a lot of people are pushing for him to get in.
The rational people.
Yeah.
No, but he still cheated, and his numbers are still inflated because he cheated.
I think that went out the window. We've done this before, but that kind of went out the window when Piazza got in.
See, so yeah, that's the thing. Like, if we're going with the precedent that the Hall of Fame has already set, then
Yeah.
I think
You have to
be
because he's the
consistent.
greatest baseball
The
player
only
to ever
thing
live.
that would keep the best hitter of all time out of the Hall of Fame would be that Major League Baseball would be embarrassed to let him in because of the whole, steroid. You guys watch the ESPN Plus 30 for 30 thing they did on him?
No.
It was this massive he said she said, kind of like always the steroid scandals are like that.
Yeah.
Like he said she said kind of stuff, and him denying it, and then people saying no, I sold him the stuff and stuff like that. And I think Major League Baseball would be embarrassed to let him in after everything that happened, in the midst of the scandal and all that.
Which I think
I don't think anyone else except for MLB would claim for it to be embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, MLB didn't think it was embarrassing when he was making them millions of dollars by hitting home runs.
Well,
I mean, heck, the commissioner that ignored all of the steroid scandals is in the Hall of Fame. Bud Selig was inducted in 2009.
see, baseball has a history of not great commissioners.
Yes, but you can't put them in the same Hall of Fame and then get on your high horse and say that Barry Bonds shouldn't be because he did steroids.
So that's on them. If
Yeah,
I were the
that didn't
commissioner,
reflect my opinion.
I'd kick everybody who cheated out of the Hall of Fame, or everybody that we know that cheated. And
Players have been cheating for years, Colton.
so
Hank Aaron used amphetamines before games. Pitchers have been doctoring balls for years after.
that's not really
how
on the
much
same level.
How
as
much did
steroids.
some acid help Barry Bonds hit home runs? If anything, you just see him
How much did it help Doc Ellis?
Yeah,
A lot.
I think that is just 70s.
Yeah.
As opposed to the 90s and early 2000s.
Steroids is the acid of the 90s and
But
early
they're
2000s.
not. They weren't taking steroids for their own pleasure. Guys have,
Yeah.
NFL players.
Everyone did. Everyone in that.
But it wasn't for that was specifically performance. I don't think Hank Aaron popped the tab and said, "All right,
It was.
I know this is going to help me hit 2 home runs today." I don't think.
All
that's
I'm
how it
saying
went.
is his story was that he was in a slump. His teammate recommended he take some amphetamines.
Okay.
So I mean, he did use it with the intention of it being performance enhancing.
Well, yeah, but Brandon Marshall took Viagra before games. That's
Viagra isn't illegal.
yeah. Well, okay. So there's a difference between just a drug that's illegal,
Why would you
And
just say
Viagra.
like Ricky Williams or something?
Brandon Marshall.
But steroids are literally for hitting the ball.
Yeah.
Amphetamines are just a drug that's illegal in general. It's not specifically illegal. I mean, I haven't read the rule book, but in the 70s it probably wasn't stated that amphetamines were illegal.
I mean,
in baseball.
steroids
It's
were
just a
illegal until
law.
19. What would you say? I guess they didn't test for steroids until.
They didn't actually punish. I was looking at a timeline yesterday. They didn't actually punish players for using steroids until 2005. They started testing in 2002.
How can you really punish players now?
Triggering
by
the
not
start
voting
of
for them in the
testing
Hall
with
of Fame?
penalties in 2004.
If you weren't even penalizing them until after Bonds' last MVP season.
Okay, it was illegal in like 1990.
Yeah, in 1991 it made the banned substance list.
Yeah, so you weren't allowed to use it, but like you said, Selig just didn't really care, didn't try to enforce it.
Because it was
until
making
2000.
them a lot of money to see
Yeah,
guys
so
like McGuire and so.
He should not be in. So Adam, what is your ballot?
My ballot
Yeah,
is Barry Bonds,
Eh,
Roger Clemens,
eh,
Scott Rowland, Billy Wagner, and Todd Helton. All of them
he's
on the
clean.
team.
Yeah, I agree with those three.
Andrew Jones,
Eh,
Manny Ramirez,
eh,
Sammy Sosa,
eh,
A-Rod,
eh,
and David Ortiz.
probably. Eh.
I would
No,
say,
definitely aren't.
All right.
Uh,
Also agree.
well, no, David Ortiz and A-Rod, so David Ortiz has the lesser known PED scandal,
Yeah.
and everyone loves him because he's Big Papi, and he's
He's
a
a
lovable
likable
guy.
Yeah.
as opposed to Alex Rodriguez, who
Yeah.
now I like him. I like him as an
Yeah,
analyst
but
now.
no one.
But when he was playing, I hated that man with every morsel in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's no chance A-Rod gets it. I just don't think he gets it. Because, one, you want to talk about Bonds' scandal being big? Yeah. Rodriguez's scandal was even bigger. Like,
Yeah, he was legitimately suspended for an entire season.
yeah. And the legal stuff that went into his, like the FBI investigations on top of the MLB investigations, there's just too much stuff for him to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but they're just not consistent with it because it, like, in my mind, if you cheated, you cheated. You shouldn't be in. But a guy like Piazza, which I'm not sure of this, but I don't think.
Piazza.
No,
Oh.
I know. I'm just saying I don't think his steroid usage was like blown out of proportion or like really known that well.
Yeah.
Whereas Bonds,
Because
like,
if
that
you
was
look
a
at
huge
Piazza on the Dodgers versus on the Mets, it's like, all right, yeah, that's a recognizable guy. He looks like he's the same human being. You look at Bonds on the Pirates versus the melon head on the Giants. Like, that's just two completely different people.
The ultimate crux of my argument, though, is just that the MLB has not taken a very hard-line stance against guys in the past. So I'm saying to take one now would be kind of absurd and very disingenuous.
I guess I would agree with that, but I don't agree with the premise that they're letting anybody
Well,
in.
and I just think everything that you just said, that just describes the MLB.
Yeah.
Like, the MLB is like one of the worst run
Oh my
sports
God.
leagues
Yeah.
in the world. So
And
for
we've
them,
seen that recently.
for you to like use all those bad characteristics to describe the MLB, I'm kind of sitting here like, yeah, that's probably what'll happen.
Yeah.
It's the MLB. But
All right, shall we get on to Heisman predictions?
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right, Bryce Young has definitely made his case.
Yeah.
okay,
I don't know. Personally, I'm just saying this, like, maybe statistically, but like, he's definitely made his case with that win. I feel like that's his.
Yeah,
that's
that's
by
his high-
far.
that's his
by
Heisman
far.
win.
Yeah. Kenny Pickett. That's my Heisman.
That's my Heisman. Kenny Pickett. You give Kenny Pickett, Mechie, Jameson Williams, or
Yeah.
the Ohio State Olave,
Or-
Garrett
or- yeah.
Wilson, and Smith.
okay, but
Yeah.
he
He
does
wins
have
the Heisman.
have an elite receiver.
Yes,
Addison is
he-
elite.
Yes, Addison's elite, but that's
You give
one
him
of them.
one more. Yeah.
Alabama has two, Ohio
Okay.
State is three.
On the flip
He
side,
single-handedly
if-
led them to
If
what are they
Pitt
in the
wouldn't-
Orange Bowl?
If Pitt wouldn't have lost two terrible games to two
Yeah.
terrible teams,
That's a point.
he would it would probably be Kenny Pickett because
Yeah.
they
If
would
they were
they
undefeated,
would be in the
he would
playoff
win. Yeah.
probably. But now since they're like 15th in the nation,
He doesn't really have a chance.
it's not going to go to
So my biggest complaint about that is just he played really well in those games.
He didn't have a bad game all
No.
season.
No.
Like the
flip
Western
side-
Michigan loss, he threw for 382
Yeah.
yards and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like there are two different sides to this because they're the predictions, and I think
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure we can all
Yeah,
agree that
Bryce Young is going
Bryce
to
Young
win.
is going
Bryce
to
Young's
win. Who should win? That can be.
Well, let's ask
be
this:
argued
do
about.
you think that maybe someone else should have been nominated over
Uh,
maybe Stroud or
that's-
Hutchinson?
Well,
Stroud should not.
I don't think Stroud is
not.
Yeah, giving
Did
it
you
to
say
Stroud,
Williams?
giving it to Stroud would
No.
be giving
I
it.
thought you said Williams.
Giving it to Stroud would be giving it to the entire OSU receiving corps.
Yes,
Yeah.
dude. And like,
Because they're all amazing. But
yes, he had like a pretty
not
good
good.
end.
All he has
Who
to
had
do is
rough
throw it,
games?
lob it in their direction.
Yeah.
They're either going to
Yeah.
go up and
He
get
had
it.
rough
Like,
games.
if you-
Oregon, he had the game-sealing interception because he just lofted a ball to the defense.
Well, and he's also a true freshman, right?
Yeah.
So,
you
yeah,
cut
well,
him some
But
slack.
you don't
you know.
incorporate that into
In the Heisman.
whether he
yeah,
should be
but
Heisman.
yeah, I'm just saying that stuff like that will be gone in
Yeah,
like a year or so.
yeah.
He won't do that anymore. But so if you look at the other two quarterbacks here, Young and Pickett, those guys really, except for the Auburn game with Young, you can't really pinpoint like a bet. You can't really say like he didn't play good, and even then he turned it on in overtime. Well, even in the last 5 minutes of the game, all of a sudden he flipped the switch and he played. Now C.J. Stroud, there were games where you watch this guy, this guy stinks, and then he eventually did turn it on.
All of his stats,
Yes.
you look at his stats for games. I agree with you if you watch the guy.
Yeah.
He didn't look good in a lot of games, and I've been a huge proponent of C.J. Stroud stinks. He hasn't been impressive
And
at
as
all this
Penn
year.
State fans,
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I know
he's
Clifford
probably
stinks
somewhere
too.
in the middle between stinks and being high.
yeah.
Objectively,
Yeah.
he's still probably a top 5,
Yeah.
top 10
Yeah,
quarterback
yeah,
in
not
college.
bad.
But okay, so
But where's Matt Corral?
Yeah. So
Losing
so,
three
so
games.
the
He's
snubs.
not winning enough.
The snubs from here, you got Corral, you got Will Anderson, Alabama linebacker. Personally, I really think he should.
Over 800.
You
What
look
about
at
like
his-
Kyle Hamilton?
You look
Yeah.
at
Kyle Hamilton's not played all year. I love Kyle Hamilton.
I like that guy.
Kyle Hamilton for Heisman.
now with Matt Corral, I think everyone kind of the first few weeks, oh my god, and they wanted to see someone not from Alabama win the Heisman. They'd be like, oh my god, Matt Corral, Heisman, and everyone not handed it to him because if you want to say you want to look at a time people handed someone the Heisman early in the season and it came back to bite him, Leonard Fournette. Now that wasn't the same situation.
And Saquon.
And Saquon, I guess, but it was really Leonard Fournette. No chance, and then he just dunked the second half of the season. Now, it's not really that extreme with Corral. People didn't hand it to him, and he didn't stink, but he certainly had more talk than he should have maybe at the beginning of the season,
if you
and
wanna
then
look
he
at
didn't
that-
keep up the play at the end.
Even more than that is Sam Howell. He was supposed to be like
Sam Howell.
fifth best
Or
fifth
him
best
and
odds.
Clemson.
Him
He's
and
just
Rattler
bad.
were
DJ?
the
Yeah, he was number one.
DJ
in
Ukulele.
Heisman.
Yeah, three of them might have been top three, but I think Will Anderson's the Heisman. Another snub, Kenneth Walker.
I was just gonna say Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He played like a stud no
Who
matter
would you?
what.
Yeah, I mean it's just it's been a glorified quarterback award now.
Yeah.
Well, what's
That
the,
was
what's
I had
the
a
maximum
conversation.
that you can invite to Heisman? Is it 5?
Oh,
I've seen 5 before. It's definitely at least 5.
Okay, then
I'm
it's
not
no
sure.
wonder.
So I had a conversation with someone about a defensive and an offensive Heisman. Now that might be cool. It would take away. The biggest thing would be it would take away from the prestige of the Heisman.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Because the Heisman's the one sole best player.
Yeah, I don't think they should do that.
But defensive players, they get nominations just because it's nominated.
That's a
defensive
dub for
player.
them.
Yeah, he even
Yeah,
get
that's
nominated.
their own win.
Yeah.
So
It's
and they have the
you don't
the Jim
need to-
Thorpe Award, but no one cares about Jim Thorpe.
They have a bunch of awards.
Yeah.
So I think it's not
None of them are
maybe
high.
not a terrible idea, but I don't think it.
I think you just give defense, this is the year, right? Kenny Pickett's team isn't that good, which maybe shouldn't factor in that much, but Bryce Young isn't, he's had a few bad games. He didn't look good against Auburn. Sure, he had his Heisman moment against Georgia, but I think this is a year you give it to someone like Will Anderson, who has easily the best defensive stats of anyone, and he's playing for the number 1 team in the nation.
See, but the thing is, so when Charles Woodson, he didn't just get nominated, right? He won it.
Yeah,
Charles
he won.
Woodson.
So
He's
he was the last
yeah,
defensive
he won.
player to win it. But so he was returning kickoffs and getting pick
He was
sixes,
doing
and he was
And getting bubble screens.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's
was
doing
exciting
more.
to watch. No one turns on an Alabama game.
Watch Will
Yeah,
Anderson.
Will
I
Anderson,
know.
let's
I know.
go.
They're, like I said, they're never going to give it to Will Anderson, but I think if you look at who has had the best season for their
It's
position,
Exactly like a non-quarterback winning NFL MVP. If you look at
Yeah.
your stats, Derrick Henry, in my eyes, and I think was the undisputed best single player in the league last year. And
And he
he
would
had
have
the
been this
biggest impact on his team in that
Yeah,
scenario.
I
And
would
it's like CMC years ago.
See, the thing
when he
is,
played outstanding.
with
just
awards like the
football.
most valuable player,
Mhm.
the most valuable player is almost just the quarterback
Yeah.
Yeah,
with the
that's
best
true.
counting stats. That is,
And
Stroud is an exception this year. because his receivers are so good. But
Yeah.
the quarterback just has the most value as the most important player.
And that's just
That's
just
just
how
life.
the sport works.
Yeah.
Like so that's just football.
Yeah.
And speaking of football, should we get into our best
Yeah,
bets
let's
now?
go bets.
Which this is not
Don't
gambling
do
advice.
Condone betting.
It's just a talking point.
Don't bet.
It's illegal for us to bet in Pennsylvania. We just want to talk about it, just for some conversation starters. So my best bets of the week: Giants covering a 10.5 spread in Los Angeles against the Chargers.
I don't hate it either, but the Chargers will still win.
So
Chargers will win.
Jake Fromm
But-
starting for the Giants, right?
Not by
What?
Giants. Wait, no. I thought DJ's back. Jones not back.
Wait, Fromm's on the Giants?
Jones.
Yeah.
No, Daniel Jones is hurt. I'm pretty sure.
He's not coming back.
What
Glennon's
about
hurt.
What about Brian Lewerke?
Ryan Lewerke.
I would start Fromm over Lewerke.
Oh,
Lewerke's
yeah,
Lordy wasn't even good in college.
Oh,
I was just saying.
You want to talk about a guy
Alright.
getting carried?
But then let's look at the Chargers and let's see how the Chargers. The Bengals tried to come back in that game and they could have.
what's kind of that job, Kyle?
Okay. Well, like what I'm saying is like they're making a comeback
they get paid to do.
and they're gonna win that game. But then Joe Mixon fumbles and that's a defensive touchdown.
I mean, the
They
Chargers.
Jamar
tried
Chase
their best.
bobble.
The Chargers are just the most bipolar.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? They're such a bipolar, inconsistent
Like
team that it's like.
Jamar Chase dropped a routine touchdown for him. That was bobbled and then intercepted.
Like the Bengals tried their best, the Chargers
You know what I'm
didn't.
saying? Like,
And that's what-
if it wasn't for the defense, like the Chargers did not play that good, and then some points it looked like a blowout, but it really
That
wasn't.
was a Steelers kind of win by the
That's
Chargers.
that's a good way to put it.
All right, Cole. Let's hear your next one.
Ravens plus 115.
I like
Yeah,
that
so the
money line.
Browns are favored. It's in
Yes.
Cleveland, but the
Spread's 2.5.
My thought is, my thought is, the Lamar Jackson played the worst game of his career, and they still beat the Browns.
Yeah.
So, if he just doesn't play the worst game of his career, I understand there's other factors, but if he just has a pretty good game, they're almost guaranteed to beat the Browns. Browns aren't that good. They did lose Marlon Humphrey, though.
That was about to say.
One of the best defensive
Vegas
backs in
is
the
probably
league.
looking at their losses like Marlon. Like still the Browns, like Baker Mayfield.
Stinks.
Yeah.
Marlon Humphrey
Talking
isn't.
about that.
Marlon Humphrey isn't exceptional. He's not that impactful.
Yeah,
to
He
that.
was good, and I
Yeah.
think he's kind of fallen off the
2
cliff.
years ago with
He's
him.
one of the
and
best
Tebow.
defensive backs in the league.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But
but-
I think
He's
Kyle's
not what
right.
he used to be.
Vegas might be looking at that and saying, and maybe overreacting a little bit. Adam, I think wrote some other spreads.
Buccaneers minus 3 versus.
Oh no, that was still mine.
Yeah, I was
He
gonna
wrote
say you
some other
finish
ones,
up
but
yours.
I would say that is
the
almost a
Buccaneers favored versus the Bills.
The Bills
Like,
just
come on, the Bills don't look good.
They
at
look
all.
terrible.
The Buccaneers are
horrendous.
maybe the best team in the league. That's one of those like
That's
See,
free
sketch,
money right
sketch
there.
Yes,
spreads
and
right there.
I'm actually favoring going Buffalo there because
Why?
the line has not moved at all. 65% of public money is on Tampa Bay, which means that the sharp bettors, the guys who gamble for a living, they are in on Buffalo.
That's a good. What does Vegas know that I don't?
Yeah.
But
Like,
I
you
give
gotta
you
think
this.
about that.
I give you
Is
this
Tom
point.
Brady dead?
Dead?
Yeah, what happened to
And
him?
here's the point I raised at him. Buffalo's gonna win.
Yeah.
I'm
And they're
I
not.
still like to put money.
Smart bettors, sharp bettors, money's
Here's
here,
my
money's there.
counterpoint.
Buffalo's
Buffalo
gonna
is
win.
bad.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is Vegas is usually right. That's how they keep going. So then, other than that, I have Jacksonville money line plus
Who do
3.
they play?
Titans.
The Titans. The Titans have.
Jacksonville's not gonna beat the Titans.
Where's that game?
Didn't they beat
I was-
them?
I was
Wait,
thinking
who
about
did
that.
Jacksonville beat?
Against the Spurs. I was thinking about
The
other
Bills.
people.
No, they beat
No,
the
they beat the
Bills.
No, it was the Bills. It was
I
like
was
seven. It was like
like
73 or
9-6.
That's how little I respect the Titans without Derrick Henry.
But dude,
Dude,
I
they're
don't
not
think they're
bad.
gonna win. I think they
as
can
far
cover
as
the
value
spread.
goes,
I think they can cover
plus
the spread.
350.
They better win. I'm starting their defense on
I don't
fantasy.
think. Yeah, I don't think you can set like
I think I am.
value.
Jackson.
Like they're just
Wait,
probably
you're talking
not
about
gonna
Jackson's
win.
defense? Yeah,
There's
okay.
there's
Oh,
a good
Tennessee's.
chance that they're not gonna win. They have
Yeah,
looked
Tennessee,
better
Tennessee.
since the beginning
Yes.
of the season, but like the Titans are still.
The Titans
They've
are
lost
terrible.
a lot. They're not terrible though.
Yes,
they
they-
aren't terrible.
They're not
With
terrible.
Ryan-
From terrible. What's their record?
8-4.
8-4, but I mean, when
in the
you-
AFC.
Like they're
8-4 in this year's NFL is one of the top teams.
Yeah,
in the
they're
Yeah.
second in the AFC.
I just think they're an awful team without Derrick Henry. The quarterback is Ryan Tannehill. They don't have their number one wide receiver.
Okay,
Tannehill's
they're
not that
playing
bad.
Jacksonville.
Yeah.
If you think Tennessee's an awful team, what do you think of Jacksonville?
I'm saying I think plus 350 is a lot of value.
It's a lot of value, but you're probably not gonna win.
That's what.
why it's a lot of value.
And then
Yeah, that's how gambling works, Kyle. You
That's
don't
what I'm
win every
saying.
time.
Don't
Not me.
because Jacksonville's not gonna
I
win.
You don't. If I were to.
it's
No,
a,
we
it's,
don't condone
It's
it.
illegal.
If you were to gamble,
Hypothetically.
you would win.
And then for my final bet, I have
Hypothetically.
Chiefs minus 9.5.
Is it-
Ride
Against
the
the
Raiders.
Raiders.
Ride with Mahomes.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's free money.
That's free money.
I don't like betting high spreads, or I don't like people betting high spreads. But like, I can see
It's
how
Mahomes. Ride with the best quarterback to ever
Yeah,
play
I don't
football.
hate that, but that is pretty big, and the Raiders did kind of get embarrassed. The Raiders did kind of get embarrassed last time they played the Chiefs, so
They're gonna get trounced
maybe
again. I'm not
they
worried.
probably will, but
It's at Kansas City. We're just handing you money.
okay.
We're just handing you money.
I think
if you're over 21.
If
that's
yeah,
it.
yes.
on
But
that note,
don't bet. But don't bet.
yeah.
Don't bet.
On that note, I think we're gonna call it for today's podcast. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
And bet responsibly.
Bet the Chiefs poop line.